Today, we are going to talk about how to write a paper. As you know, for the data mining class, you are supposed to write a research paper in regular semester to get the final scores for your final project or the research project. In this class, I want to talk about how do we write a paper. So that there are three files I want you guys to look in this class. First of all, of course, is the PowerPoint slides that I prepared for you guys. The other one is the paper that we recently published in the Beverage Journal, so that you will also be able to access this paper. The third document is the one on the right. I will always keep this one over here. This is the summary of how do I outline the whole paper in sections as well as subsections or the paragraph in each section, so that this is corresponding to the paper that I wrote. For example, in the introduction, there are 5 paragraphs in the introduction, and those are the 5 paragraphs I want to discuss in the outline over here. So the two things or all three documents need to cross-reference with each other so that you can have a fully understanding of the topics I want to talk with you guys today. So let's start with it. How to write a paper. First of all, paper has two major kind of format. The one I showed you earlier is the one that's considered as more regular format, which is written in a single column format. However, in the file, I also included a IEEE 2-column format as the template. I want you guys to write your paper in the IEEE 2-column format. Again, you will have that template, so the structure is already there. However, it makes paper looks real professional, and that's something you are not regularly trained. So I want you guys to have some experience with that. And therefore, what you are going to write in the research paper or the report is going to be in the IEEE 2-column format. The paper contains the main body as well as the extra parts. In the main body, which is the one I showed you on the right-hand side, are the first 5 most important components, each one corresponding to one section, starting with the introduction. You want to talk about the whole idea of the research. Then you will look into how did you prepare your experiment, how would you prepare your data, that kind of stuff. And then it's about the algorithms. Since we are in data mining class, most of the methods is focusing on the data mining algorithms such as classification, unsupervised methods, etc. Sometimes we propose some new ideas. This is also where that we're going to describe the new algorithms that we have developed. And then, of course, is the results section to talk about what is the research findings that you have found. Is it performed better than the previous research, or you find some interesting new informations? Finally, we will come to the conclusion. As you can see, these 5 sections is corresponding to the 5 sections that we have over here. So each one of that, we will look a little bit deeper into each section. The extra part of the paper, including the abstract. So the abstract is the few words, usually limited by 250 words, to briefly talk about what is this research about, what kind of things that it has done, and what are the novel findings that you have. We can, after the conclusion, we can add some future works, and of course, the references are the important part of the research paper, because that shows you know what are the current researches that's available out there. And then your research is based on those knowledges. So you are standing on the shoulder of a giant and you look further than the giant. So starting with the introduction. The introduction is like make readers understand the basic information, which includes the background, what's the problems that you want to tackle on, related literatures. So this is where you will have quite a few references in the introduction. Talk about what are the things that people are doing or has been done, and then basically you want to state those things. Make sure you present that yourself understanding the whole ideas, and then talk about what is your new idea. So this is very important. Probably the most important section among all, so that people would want to read it, would have some understandings of what the things that you are talking about. So the part should including brief introduce your topics that you are involved in, what are the challenges, and then what's the previous work that has been done, brief solution to the paper, organization of the paper. So if you look into the right-hand side of my document, in my paper, I start talking about what is wine. And then because this research is focusing on Bordeaux, so I want to talk about the Bordeaux, why Bordeaux is special, and why people are working on this area. And then we want to discuss some researches in the area of combining computer science with wine. In the area of Bordeaux, researches that what are the Bordeaux wine research has been done, etc. And then we will bring into the wine informatics, which is the one that we have been working on for almost a semester, so that make sure people understand what is the concept of the wine informatics. And finally, we go into the topics that we want to discuss in this paper, which is the understanding 21st century Bordeaux wines. So that's the for the introduction part. Then we will look into the experimental setup, indicating that we want to describe how do we set up our experiment and why this is a valid way. The most important thing is probably the input data set. So how do you prepare the data set? All kinds of different equations, distance metrics. If you are using Jacquard distance or you are using Jacquard coefficient, you need to list out all of those things, describe it clearly so that people will be able to understand it. What kind of parameters that are necessary for the algorithms, etc. So there are quite a few different things that I need to describe over here. In the paper, you see that we're starting with talking about the wine spectator. What is wine spectator? How do we get our reviews from? And then we talk about the computational wine wheel, which is the one that we are able to retrieve the attributes from the reviews. And then we talk about the two major data sets that we have. One is the all Bordeaux data set. The other one is the Bordeaux subset, elite Bordeaux coming from the classification 1855. So if we take a look of the paper, what you will notice is that the data sets that we have has the description on the all Bordeaux data set. What is the score distribution? How many wines has been reviewed in each year? And we can compare that with the 1855 class elite wines. So you can see the scores are much better than all Bordeaux wine, and the number of wine being reviewed are more consistent. So those are the things that we want to talk about in the experiment data set. Then we move into the methods. So what are the algorithms? What are the evaluation metrics that you have done? So in this part, we want to make the readers understand how you solve the problem, and the part should also include the previous method used in the same problem. If there's anything that you want to do the comparison, and what are your novel approach or the approaches that you have used. In the paper, you can see that we look into naive Bayes. We use SVM. So those are the two subsections. We want to talk about those algorithms and how do we evaluate the results. The evaluation that we've done over here is using the confusion matrix, which means the true positive, false positive, true negative, false negative, to calculate all kinds of different evaluations that we have. So this is about the method part. And finally, we will move into the result. The result, all of you guys will have different style in the results, because some of your algorithm need to set up different values of parameters. Some of you guys have some difficulties, so that you are not able to run the whole data set, and you want to report those things over here. So the result is the most dynamic part. That's why I want you guys to write your result to report your performances in this semester. So the objective is show why your approach is a good one, or why your approach needs to be documented. This part should including the comparison. We should have the figures, tables, to describe your results and description of your result in easy understanding English, so that you try to explain what you have found. In the paper, we structure by starting with the results of the old Bordeaux data set. What is the accuracy? What is the evaluation matrices showed? And another results from 1855 data set. So that is the two results that we have showed. And therefore, if we look into that, you can see that the results that we have reported over here, what is the accuracy, precision, recall, F score, as well as what's the results from the second data set. So after we showed the two data sets results, we then try to compare the two data sets. And then we try to also provide some extra information to understand the problem, so that we have some visualizations over there. And finally, the most important thing over here is how do you represent the novel knowledge you get from the algorithm. Because this is a naive-based white box classification algorithm, we are able to show the important attributes in all Bordeaux wine as well as in the 90 plus wine or 90 minus wine, indicating what are the attributes that you want people to see so that you can get better score, and what are the attributes you are probably less likely want to have because they are more likely to end up with 90 minus wines. So that is the idea about the results section, and this is important for you guys to think about and also to write your result part. So finally, conclusion, you try to summarize your results. This part should including a reminder of the readers why this is a good paper, because you have achieved better performances or you create a novel algorithm, etc. Finally, you need to add your reference in the back for whatever future works that you have. In my paper, I combine the future work with the conclusion. Sometimes it can be separated out as an independent section, as fine as well. And finally, you need to write your abstract in the very last step. Once you have summarized everything, then you try to write your abstract. Do not write your abstract in the beginning, because that will be totally different from what you would end up with. So these are the important things about how do you write a paper. Like I told you guys, I want you guys to focus on the result part in the end of semester. I need to submit the whole result section, assuming that you already have creating all other parts, and I want you guys to spend a good amount of time to describe your results. As for the assignment of this class, although I ask you guys to write the results section, every one of you, and I'm talking about every one of you, you need to sit down, think about what is your research team's group research. And I want every single one of you create a document like this one, like the one I'm showing you right now, to summarize or to structure what is your paper would looks like if you need to write the whole paper. So I want you guys, every single one of you, create a structure. A paper looks like this one, a document like this structure of the whole paper, separate by each sections. And then in each section, what are the things that you want to write? Similar things like this one. And I want you guys to submit this by the next class. That will be all for the class I want you guys to do. Enjoy your weekend.